The Galactic Council was not kind to humans, especially to one human named Jace. They saw him as weak, a mistake of evolution, but Jace was not weak. He was different. Strong in ways they did not understand. One day, the Council called Jace too. A meeting on their massive starship. The room was cold and bright, filled with tall aliens with strange eyes. Jace stood quietly, his hands behind his back. Watching their faces, they spoke with heavy voices. Telling him he had an important mission, a mission of honor, they said. To explore the lost world of Zarnok. Jace listened carefully, but he knew the truth was hidden. The Council wanted him gone, sent to die. Zarnok was a dangerous planet, covered in red mist and strange beasts. No one who went there had ever returned. Jace knew that sending him there was a sentence of death, but he did not show fear. Instead, he nodded, accepting the mission with calm. The ship prepared for the trip. Jace trained in the starship's gym, but his mind was not on strength. It was on survival. He studied the star maps and learned about Zarnok's storms and creatures. He made plans and packed his gear, a strong knife, a plasma pistol, medical kits, and some dried food before the ship left. Jace walked past the council members. Their eyes watched him with hate and doubt. One alien said quietly, "He won't last a day." Another whispered, "The beast will kill him." But Jace smiled. To himself, feeling a fire inside, he was ready for whatever waited on that red planet. The journey through space was long and quiet. Jace looked through the small window and saw stars like diamonds. He thought about Earth, his home. He wondered if he would ever return, but he pushed the thought away, focusing on the task ahead when the ship landed on Zarnok. The air was thick and strange. The red mist rolled over the rocks like a living thing. The ground shook under his feet. He could hear distant roars and growls. Jace knew the beast was near, watching, waiting. He stepped out into the alien world. The ground was covered in sharp stones and strange plants. The sky was dark red, and two suns were setting behind tall mountains. Jace felt a chill, but he did not show it. He set up his small camp near a river that looked dark and slow. That night, Jace heard something heavy moving in the shadows. A growl echoed through the trees, low and full of power. He grabbed his pistol, but did not point it. He waited, watching the darkness. Suddenly, glowing eyes appeared, large and fierce. The beast stepped out from the mist, taller than any man. Its skin was rough and covered in scars. Its claws dug into the ground, and its breath was hot and sharp. Jace's heart beat fast. But he stood his ground. He did not run. The beast watched him carefully. Its eyes full of questions, Jace lowered his weapon slowly, showing he meant no harm. The beast growled again, but did not attack. Jace reached out his hand, open and calm. For a moment, the world was still. Then the beast took a step back, watching. It was the start of something no one had ever seen. A human and a beast meeting as equals, Jace knew. This was just the beginning. The council had sent him to die, but he was still alive, and he was not alone. The red mist swirled around them as the night grew deeper, and far above, the stars watched silently. Will survive the mission meant to kill him was now the mission to live. The morning sun barely broke through the thick red mist that covered the land of Zarnok. Jace woke slowly. Feeling the cold bite of the alien air, he looked around his small camp, watching the strange plants sway without wind. The silence was heavy, almost too quiet. He thought about the creature he met last night. The huge beast with glowing eyes that had not attacked him. That was strange. No animal on any planet would simply watch and not fight when a stranger appeared. Jace packed his gear carefully, folding his small tent and putting his tools in order. He decided to follow the river upstream, hoping to find shelter or signs of life. Every step he took, the ground shook slightly. Heavy footsteps were near, but he did not see the beast. Suddenly, a deep roar echoed through the valley. Jace froze, listening carefully. The sound was filled with pain and anger. It was the beast butt. It was hurt. He moved toward the noise, careful not to make too much sound. The forest was dense and full of giant trees, taller than any Jace had seen. The red mist curled around the trunks like smoke. Branches moved slightly, but no animals showed themselves. Jace came to a small clearing, and there he saw it. The beast was lying on the ground. One leg bent at an odd angle, blood dripped from a deep wound, and its breathing was heavy. Jace's heart raced. This was his chance to help, or to die trying. He dropped his pack and moved closer. The beast lifted its head slowly, eyes filled with pain. Jace spoke softly. "I'm here too. Help, not to hurt." The beast growled low, but did not move away. Jace pulled out a small medical kit, opening the tools with shaky hands. He cleaned the wound as best as he could with alien antiseptic and bandages. The beast flinched, but stayed still. Watching Jace's every move, Jace worked quickly, knowing the infection could kill the beast if left alone after the bandage was wrapped tight. The beast stood slowly, but its leg gave way. It fell to the ground with a loud thud. Jace did not run. He reached out and touched the beast's head gently. It was rough and warm, like a giant stone covered in soft moss. The beast looked into Jace's eyes and then made a soft sound, almost a sigh. Jace felt a strange connection, like two lost souls finding each other. Days passed, and Jace stayed. Near the beast, he called it Gror, a strong name that fit the creature's power. Gror stayed close to Jace's camp, sometimes watching from the shadows. Jace could feel its presence, even when it was hidden. Jace made traps and weapons to protect himself. But he didn't want to fight Grory. He wanted to understand. He learned to read the patterns of the forest, the way the red mist moved, the sounds of animals, and the changing winds. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Jace heard a noise. Smaller creatures, fast and sharp-toothed, came close to his camp. Jace grabbed his pistol. But before he could aim, Gror appeared. The giant beast roared loud and charged. The smaller creatures scattered, howling in fear. Gror stood tall, protecting Jace like a shield. Jace felt safe for the first time on this dangerous planet. He smiled and patted Gror's huge head. The beast lowered its massive body and let Jace climb on its back. Together, they rode through the dark forest, the red mist swirling around them, but the Galactic Council was watching. They saw through their scanners the strange bond between Jace and the beast. Their faces changed from hate to fear. "What is this human doing?" they whispered. "This is not survival, it is something new." Jace and Gror became a team, the hunter and the human. Each day brought new challenges, storms, creatures, and strange plants. But together, they survived. Jace learned to trust. Gror and the beast learned to trust the human in the heart of the red mist. A friendship was growing, one that no one had expected, and no one knew what it would mean for the future. Jace looked up at the twin sun setting. He said quietly, "We're not alone anymore, friend." Gror growled softly in answer, and the shadows around them seemed to listen. The days on Zarnok passed slowly, each one heavier than the last. Jace felt the weight of the alien planet's silence and danger pressing on him. But there was one thing that made each day different. Gror. The beast, though large and fierce, Gror was not just a wild creature. He was watching Jace with something like understanding. Jace woke early each morning, and Gror was already near. The giant beast moved through the trees carefully. As if protecting something precious, Jace decided to name him properly that day, Gror. Sounded right for such a powerful being. He spoke softly. Gror. We need to stick together if we want to live. Gror growled quietly, like he agreed. The bond between them was strange, almost like a friendship. Jace learned to read Gror's moods by the colors his skin showed. Deep reds meant anger or pain. Soft blues meant calm. Gror's skin shifted like light on water, changing with his feelings. Jace moved carefully through the forest, making small traps and weapons. He hunted for food, but always left some for Gror. The beast watched silently, sometimes following Jace from a distance. At night, Gror would come close and lie near the campfire. Jace felt safe for the first time since arriving on this deadly planet. One day, while exploring deeper into the forest, Jace heard strange voices. Aliens hunters from the Galactic Council had sent a team to find him. He hid quickly, heart pounding, and saw the soldiers moving with heavy weapons. They were searching for the lost human and the monster he had found. Jace knew he could not fight them alone, but Gror was nearby, hidden in the shadows. When the soldiers spotted the huge beast, their faces showed shock and fear. They opened fire, plasma bolts lighting the dark forest. Gror roared in pain but charged forward. The beast moved faster than anyone expected, tearing through the soldiers. Jace jumped from his hiding spot and joined the fight. He used his traps to catch the enemies. Together, human and beast were unstoppable. After the battle, Jace looked at Gror's wounds. He knelt down and cleaned the cuts. Gror didn't pull away. Instead, he lowered his head, trusting Jace completely. That night, Jace thought about the Council's fear. They don't understand us, he whispered. But we don't need them to. The bond between him and Gror was more than survival, it was friendship, and that made them stronger. Days turned into weeks, and Jace taught Gror new things. He showed him how to use his strength wisely. They learned to communicate without words, using colors and sounds. Jace found a strange joy in the beast's company. He was no longer alone in the dark, red forest. But the Council was growing desperate. They sent more ships, more soldiers, to capture or kill Jace and his beast. Jace watched their approaches on his scanner. He knew a bigger battle was coming. One evening, as the twin suns set and the sky burned red, Jace sat by the fire and looked at Gror. Tomorrow, we fight for our lives, he said. But no matter what happens, you're my friend. Gror growled softly, the color of his skin shifting to a calm blue. It was a promise. The next day, the forest echoed with the sound of gunfire and roars. Jace and Gror fought side by side. The beast's power and Jace's cunning made them a deadly team. The soldiers were strong, but they did not have the bond that these two shared. When the dust settled, Jace stood tall, bloodied, but alive. Gror lay nearby, injured but breathing. Jace smiled and said, "We will survive together." And in that moment, the hunter and the human became legends. Not just on Zarnok, but in the eyes of the whole galaxy. Back in the great halls of the Galactic Council, tension filled the air like a storm about to break. The leaders gathered in a circular chamber, their faces grim and voices sharp. They watched the live feeds from their surveillance ships orbiting the red planet. Zarnok, what they saw, did not bring the satisfaction they had hoped for. The human Jace was still alive, more than alive. He was thriving, and he was not alone. Beside him stood the beast Gror, huge and fierce. The impossible bond between them grew stronger with each day. The Council's officers whispered in shock and fear. "How is this possible?" One elder demanded. "He should have died in days," said another, eyes wide with disbelief. The mission was clear. Send the human to his death. Yet here he was, breaking all their expectations. The Council had counted on the beast to kill Jace. But the beast was hurt, and the human had healed it. They had expected weakness, but they saw strength and alliance. The human was not like others. He was something new, something dangerous. Panic spread like wildfire. Plans to send more soldiers were discussed, but doubts crept in could they handle the beast. Gror was not just a wild animal. It was intelligent and fierce, and it protected. Jace, with a deadly loyalty, the Council's military commander, spoke with urgency. "We must act quickly," he said, "before they grow stronger." Others warned of risks. "If we send orbital strikes, the beast may escape, or worse, the human may." The Council was divided, uncertain and afraid. In the shadows, some whispered of a secret long ago. Humans were rumored to have a unique power, a power of bonding, that no other species had. It was thought to be lost, forgotten, or a myth, but now it was waking, and it terrified the Council more than any weapon. Meanwhile, on Zarnok, Jace felt the change in the air. The red sky seemed darker, heavier. He knew the Council was planning something. He looked at Gror, his fierce friend and protector. "We need to be ready," Jace said quietly. They won't stop. Together, they prepared. Jace built traps and weapons with what little he had. Gror learned to move silently through the forest, watching for danger. The bond between human and beast grew deeper. They were no longer just hunter and prey, but partners. One night Jace looked up at the stars, he whispered. "They sent me to die. But I'm still here, and I have a friend who would fight the galaxy for me." Gror growled softly, his skin glowing a calm blue. It was a promise of strength and loyalty, the Council's. Panic was their greatest weapon. Because fear made them rush, and rushed plans often fail. Jace knew this, and he waited for the day the Council's ships would return. For the battle that would decide the fate of Zarnok, and maybe more. In the silence of the Red Forest, anew. Power was rising, the power of survival, friendship, and a human's will to live. The Council had sent the human to die, but instead, he was becoming a legend. The red mist hung low over the forest as Jace woke to a strange silence. Gror was not near the campfire as usual. Jace's heart tightened with worry. He grabbed his gear and called softly. "Gror?" The beast's deep growl answered from the shadows. Jace followed the sound through the twisted trees and sharp rocks. There, he found Gror lying on the ground, pain clear in his glowing eyes. The giant beast's leg was swollen and bleeding. The old wound worse than before. Jace dropped to his knees, heart pounding. He knew this injury could kill Gror if not treated quickly. He pulled out his medical kit and carefully cleaned the wound. Gror flinched but stayed still, trusting Jace to help. The bond between them was more than survival now. Jace saw the pain not just in Gror's eyes, but in his soul. He whispered, "I'm here, friend. I won't let you die." Gror lowered his massive head, allowing Jace to work, as Jace dressed the wound. He thought about the mission meant to kill him. The Galactic Council had sent him to die alone. But instead, he had found a frienda. Beast with a heart as big as the planet itself. Jace's choice was clear. Protect Gror, no matter what. But danger was closing in. The Council had grown desperate. Sending an elite strike team to capture or kill Jace and Gror. Jace heard the hum of their dropship through the thick canopy. He looked at Gror and said, "They're coming for us, but I won't run." Together, they prepared for the fight. Jace set traps around the camp while Gror rested but stayed alert. The bond between human and beast was tested like never before. Jace knew this battle could end everything. When the dropship landed, the air filled with tension. Soldiers poured out, weapons ready, eyes cold and determined. Jace stepped forward. Holding his pistol low, Gror rose, powerful and fierce despite his injury. The fight was brutal. Gror's strength tore through the soldiers. Jace's traps caught many off guard, but the soldiers were skilled. And the battle was far from over. Amid the chaos, Jace saw a soldier aiming at Gror's wounded leg Without thinking, he threw himself between them. A plasma bolt grazed his arm, burning but not stopping him. Gror roared in pain and rage, fighting harder. After what felt like hours, the soldiers retreated. Jace and Gror stood among the fallen, breathing heavy. Jace looked at Gror's leg. Now bleeding again, he knew healing would take time. But their bond was unbreakable. Jace held Gror's head gently, whispering, "We fight together. We survive together." Gror's skin shifted to a soft blue, a sign of trust and calm in that moment. Man and beast were no longer just allies, they were family, but the council was not done. They had seen what Jace and Gror could do, and now fear drove their plans to a dangerous edge. Jace knew the true war was just beginning. Under the red sky, Jace made a silent promise. No matter the pain, no matter the battle, he would protect Gror, because the beast was more than a pet or a weapon. He was the reason Jace was still alive. Together, they faced the unknown, two unlikely friends against a galaxy that wanted them dead. And in their bond lay a new hope, a story no one had expected. A story that would change everything. The red sky burned fiercely as dawn broke over Zarnok. The air was thick with tension and the smell of wet earth. Jace stood at the edge of the forest, his eyes sharp. Gror moved beside him, heavy footsteps shaking the ground. Today was not a day for peace. The council's elite strike team had come. They came with plasma rifles, drones, and deadly machines. Their orders were clear: eliminate the human and his beast. Jace looked at Gror and said quietly, "They want to fight us." Gror growled, his skin flashing a dark red. Ready for battle, Jace checked his traps one last time, then followed Gror into the thick forest. The forest was alive with danger. Tall trees stretched like giants, hiding deadly predators. But Jace and Gror knew this land better than anyone. They used the trees, the rocks, and the shadows as their weapons. The first squad of soldiers walked into the trap. Hidden pits opened beneath their feet, throwing some into sharp spikes. Gror roared and charged, crashing through the enemy with terrifying power. Jace fired his pistol with precision, disabling drones and soldiers alike. The soldiers fought back fiercely. Plasma bolts lit the dark woods, machines hummed and exploded. But they did not expect a beast so strong or a human so clever. Gror's injured leg slowed him, but his rage made him unstoppable. He tore through the enemy lines, protecting Jace. Like a shield, Jace's traps and quick thinking gave them the upper hand. Together, they were a storm no one could stop. The alien captain shouted orders, but fear showed in his eyes. He fights like a monster. He yelled. Jace smiled. I'm just human, he thought. The battle raged for hours, the forest shaking with every blow. At one point, Jace was surrounded, plasma rifles aimed at him. But Gror leaped from the shadows, crushing the soldiers. Before they could fire, Jace grabbed his weapon and fought alongside his beast. Their teamwork was perfect, instinctive. As the last of the soldiers fled, the forest fell silent again. Jace and Gror stood victorious, but exhausted. Jace looked at his beast, blood on fur and skin. We survived the war, he said, but the fight is not over. Gror lowered his massive head, tired but proud. His skin shifted to a calm blue, signaling peace for now. Jace smiled and patted Gror's broad shoulder. They had won this battle, but the war with the council was far from done. Jace knew the council would return with more weapons, more soldiers, but he was ready, with Gror by his side. He was no longer alone. The hunter and the human were one. The red mist rolled through the forest, hiding them from the world, but their story was spreading, whispered among the stars. A human who tamed a beast who trusted a human, and together they would change the fate of the galaxy, one battle at a time. The vast chamber of the Galactic Council was colder than ever. Leaders gathered in tense silence as the great doors slowly opened. All eyes turned toward the entrance, expecting silence or failure. But what stepped through was far beyond what anyone dared imagine. Jace walked steadily into the room, dust and dirt covering his clothes. Behind him, towering and proud, was Gror, the beast who should have been a monster, but now he wore armor crafted from broken pieces of alien machines. His eyes glowed not with rage, but with quiet power. The guards raised their weapons. Alarmed and confused, the council's leader raised a hand, commanding them to stop. A heavy silence fell over the room, broken only by the soft sounds of Gror's breathing. Jace's voice was calm but strong. "You sent me to die on Zarnok," he said, "but I returned with a friend." He tossed a piece of an alien captain's helmet onto the polished floor. The symbol of the council's failure lay there like a challenge. Gror's roar filled the chamber, not a roar of destruction, but a warning, a promise. The council's leaders felt the weight of it deep in their bones. They realized this was no longer a game of power or politics. It was a story of survival and friendship that defied their rules. Jace took a slow step forward, eyes locked on the council's cold faces. No human should be sent to die without a chance. No beast should be feared without understanding, he said. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some council members looked ashamed, others angry, but none dared to challenge the truth in Jace's words. Gror shifted his skin to a glowing blue, a sign of peace and trust. Jace reached out and placed a hand on the beast's armored head. Together, they stood, human and beast, united and unbroken. The council was forced to face a new reality. Humans were not just survivors, they were changers. They could build bonds where others saw only monsters. They could face death and come back stronger. Jace's story spread across the galaxy. A tale of courage, loyalty, and hope, of a human who did not just survive, but who tamed a beast and brought it home. And as the council whispered their fears and plans, Jace and Gror walked out, ready for whatever came next. Their bond unshakable, their future unwritten. For in the heart of the universe, the mission meant to kill a human had instead made a legend.